Hey guys, so today we're going to be doing a lesson on creating circle graphs. Now you'll notice here if you take a look at the you will be able to, it says to construct a circle graph using a protractor. Now I don't think I remembered to send you guys home with protractors, so we are actually going to skip the part where we draw the circle, but we're still going to go through the steps on how to figure out the values and the central angles. So if you take a look here at the first slide, you'll see the key words are central angle. So a central angle is formed by two radii. That's a key word here of a circle. The vertex of the angles is at the center of the circle. So if we take a look here, you can see the vertex is this red dot, and then we have the two radii. Now remember, a radii, you might also know it as a radius, is just the the line that comes from the center halfway across the distance of the circle. So that's what we're going to be looking at today. Okay, so here we go. Drawing a circle graph with a protractor. So here you can see Shannon surveyed her grade 7 class about the number of days that they use the internet a typical week. The results are shown in the table. So this would be what would be given to you in a question. So you can see here the number of students is 3 students use the internet 0 days a week, 9 students 1 to 3, and 18 4 or more. So now it's saying draw a circle graph to display the data. Well, we are not going to do the drawing part, but we are going to figure out how to get that data. So we take a look here, and step 1 says to determine the total number of students in the class. This is important because we're working with a fraction. So what I mean by that is we're going to be making fractions so that we can figure out the percents, the decimal equivalent, and the central angle. You'll see those are the titles here in our chart that we're going to fill out. It's important to be aware that these first two are just the same information that we had given to us in the question. Internet use and number of students. So that's the same information. The next 3 columns are where we're going to find and fill in that information. Okay, so we've determined the total number of students in the class, and that is taking these numbers here, the numbers of students, and we just added them together. So that's what I did here. 3 plus 9 plus 18 is 30. So we know that there's 30 students in the class. The second step is to complete the table. So once again, those first 2 columns, they were given to us already. The first step is to find the percent of the total. So when we're doing that, we are just finding the fraction. So there are 3 students in the class, and then we know that with a percent, the part goes on top, that's 3, the total goes on the bottom. There's 30 students total in the class. You can use your calculator now to punch this in. So 3 divided by 30, and you're going to get 0.1. Now, if you take a look right here, that is what you will see in the table. Now, in order to make it to a percent, we know that we can use the decimal, the Dr. Pepper method. So if you take a look at Dr. Pepper, we have 0.1, and we want to turn into a percent. So we're going to move it 2 spaces and add a percent sign. So that would be 10%, and that's what you see here. Then it asks us for the decimal value equivalent. So we know the decimal because we already calculated that, and that's 0.1. You don't have to have that extra 0 on the end. You can. So taking a look at that. Then in order to find the central angle, we are looking at the total amount that a circle adds up to. So we know that there are 360 degrees in a circle. So we are going to multiply the percent by 360 degrees, and that is going to give us the central angle. So one more time, let's go through that, looking at the second example. So if we take a look here, 9 students use the internet 1 to 3 days a week. So 9 students is the part. The total is 30 students. We punch that into our calculator, and we are going to get 0.3. So that's what we have right here, 0.3. To turn that into a percent, I use Dr. Pepper, move it 2 spaces, 30%. Next step is to take the decimal value, 0.3, multiply it by 360, which gives me 108 degrees. That is how big that space would be in our circle graph. All right, I'm just going to clean this up a little bit here so we can see better for the next example. All right, so the last one we're going to go through, you see that we have 18 students. We divided 18 by 30. We got 0.6, multiplied it by 100, or used Dr. Pepper to find the percent. Took the decimal value, 0.6 times 360 is 216. That is how we get the values. Now, the next step that's important here is you will see this totals. Why that is important is because this total section is what is going to help us make sure that we've done everything correctly. So if you take a look, our total number of students is 30. So that's good. That checks out. The next thing that you need to do is once you have figured out all of these percentages, we want to make sure that these add up to 100 because we know percentages always have to add up to 100. So if we do some quick math, 10 plus 30 is 40, 40 plus 60 is 100. So that's good. It adds up to 100%. These right here, the decimal value equivalents, also have to add up to 1 because we're looking at 100%. So 0.1 plus 0.3 plus 0.6 adds up to 1. So that's good. The next thing is the central angle. We know that a circle adds up to 360 degrees. So if these answers that we got here don't add up to 360 degrees, something went wrong. So that would be when I would go back and check my percentages, my decimals, and make sure that I've done my multiplication right. For all of these calculations, you can use a calculator. So those are a couple of things to be aware of, guys, while you're doing this type of question. So we are going to go on to the next step, which would be drawing the circle. We are not going to draw the circle because you don't have a compass at home, but I'm still going to show you how this worked. So if you take a look here, we see that 60% of students use the internet 4 or more days. That's what's represented right here. Let me get a different color right here. 30% of students use the internet 1 to 3 days. That's what's represented here. And finally, 10% used it 0 days. And that's what is represented here. Notice that on the circle graph, we used the percentage values, okay? That's important. When you're making a circle graph, we show it in a percentage. I'm not going to talk about how to use a protractor to measure it because we don't have protractors and I think it will just be more confusing. So you can basically ignore this part that says draw the circle for now. All you need to know is how to get these values that show you the central angle. All right? So we are going to go through another example. It is a you try. What I'm going to suggest to you right now is to pause the video and give this a try by yourself. If you want to try one and then listen to me explain it, that's a great idea too. And then that way you know you're on the right track. All right, here we go. So once again, guys, the you try is a very similar question to what we've just done, but I've just changed the numbers. Okay, so Morgan surveyed her grade 7 class about the number of phone calls they make each day. The results are shown in the table. Draw a circle graph to display the data. So we can see 3 students make 0 phone calls, 9 students make 1 to 2, 12, 3 to 5, 6 more than 5. This is the information they are giving us, and that is going to help us get the information that we need. So, looking back at this question right here, the first step was to determine the total number of students in the class. We are going to do the exact same thing here again. Determine the total number of students in the class. So what you're going to do is you're going to add up the students. 3 plus 9 plus 12 plus 6 equals 30. So in this case, it's similar to the last question. There are 30 students in the class. Okay, going on to the next step. So complete the following table. Once again, notice that these 2 first sections, cell phone calls per day and number of people, are the information that we were given in the question. The new 3 columns right over here, percent of total, decimal value equivalent, and central angle, that's what we're going to figure out. I've set this up with fill in the blanks for you. So here we go. We're going to go through it together. All right, so my first step is to find the percent of total for each one. So 3 people call 0 times per day. Now there's 30 students in the class total, so I am going to divide to find that answer. I'm going to use my calculator. 3 divided by 30 is 0.1. Then I'm going to multiply it by 100%, by 100, to get the percent, or just use the Dr. Pepper method and move the decimal 2 spaces to the right. So that's going to be 10%. The next one is there are 9 people that use the internet, that call, make 1 to 2 phone calls per day. So 9 divided by 30, punch that into my calculator, gives me 0.3. I'm going to multiply it by 100, and that's going to give me 30%. Next, 12 divided by 30. You can see here I'm just taking this number and dividing it by the total number of students in the class. So 12 divided by 30, punch that into your calculator, 0.4. Oops. 0.4 is going to give me 40%. Last one, 6 divided by 30, 0.2, and that's going to be 20%. Now I'm going to stop before I go any further and make sure that these percentages add up to 100, because if they don't, something went wrong. It always has to add up to 100. So I'm going to add 10 to 30, which is 40. 40 plus 40 is 80. 80 plus 20 is 100. Perfect. So I know I'm good to go because all the values add up. All right. So going on to the next section. Okay, there we go. Decimal value equivalent. Well, I already have the decimals here, so I'm just going to copy them. 0.1, 0.3, 0.4, 0.2. Same thing again. If you want to add those up quick or check your calculator to make sure that they add up, you can do that. So 0.1 plus 0.3, 0.4, 0.4 plus 0.4, 0.8, 0.8 plus 0.2 is 1.0. Now, the final step is to find the central angle. Okay, that is where I would figure out how big this would be on a circle graph. So I'm taking my decimal value equivalent and I'm multiplying it by 360. I'm going to do that for all of them. So I'm just transferring the information here over, and you can punch those values into your calculator. So 0.1 times 360 is 36. Now remember, because it's an angle, it's going to be in degrees. 0.3 times 360, 108 degrees. 0.4 times 360, 144 degrees. And 0.2 times 360 degrees is 72 degrees. So this is as far as we would take it on a test or a question. You would be required to show me that you can get these values right here, the central angle. The last and final step here, guys, is to just make sure that these all add up properly. So use your calculator. 36 plus 108 plus 144 plus 72. And it does add up, in fact, to 360. So we know that we're good because it's going to add up to make a whole circle, just like when we saw here. So these values of this one right here, they had to add up to 360. Same for this one. So hopefully you guys got that right. If you didn't, I would rewatch the video to make sure that you understand and practice that again. So here are your practice questions, guys. Once again, the pro tips, of course, refer to your notes, or in this case, rewatch the video. Ask questions if you need clarification. You can always send me a message or ask a friend, or again, the video is a great tool for you. For your textbook and workbook questions, if it asks you to draw a circle, you do not need to draw a circle, okay? So here it's saying complete your circle graphs on white paper. You don't need to do that because you likely don't have a protractor. So you just need to get the values, okay? So values only. You don't have to draw the circle. Okay, well, I hope this lesson was helpful, guys, and good luck. Send me a message if you have any questions, rewatch the video, and all the best.